Definitely a lot of good nuggets. I guess though I still am a little confused exactly what it is. So I don't know, yeah, if you guys could go over that, just kind of like,
You're
uh,
confused on what codependency is?
yeah. I don't know, maybe it seems like it should be obvious, but I just feel like there were so many different angles
It's a
that
lot.
we looked at it. So,
It's
yeah.
so the very, very simplified definition would be it's the needing it's needing somebody to be okay. It's needing
Mm,
a certain way to be okay. And
mm-hmm.
and so there's a lot of different ways that it manifests. But codependency is literally like you're dependent, like your identity more is dependent on somebody else's that.
That's
Yeah.
extreme too, but it's super
Yeah.
subtle and like a lot of different things that we do in ways that we think.
Well, there's extremes of everything, just like self-hatred. There's extremes of it, but most often self-hatred shows up in definition 11 or codependency, a really extreme behavior would be, the woman that marries, you know, the alcoholic or the drunk or the drug user and tries to fix them, right? That would be like the extreme cases are the ones that always end up in relationships where their identity and their significant fixes them.
Mm,
And as long as they have their significance found in that, then they're okay. They're like, okay, so in that hero complex. So, but then you have it come up subtly, where I'm like, I might be a small group leader at a church, and if my people aren't happy in that small group, then I'll go home being like, I need to do whatever I can to find a way to
You won't
group
be okay.
like good again because you're codependent on those people.
Codependency could also be as subtle, like for me, for example, as me having an awful day, doubting myself, and then all of a sudden I get on a session with one of my girls and I do some good things and I leave like, oh my God, all my stuff is gone. I feel totally better. I know people in the coaching industry that will reach out to me and they're having like a meltdown or something's going on, and I'll respond and like, hey, like what's happening? And I'll try to engage. Oh, I actually got on my session with my client and I felt totally better after. And
mm,
she really found identity from leading somebody
And it's
in a
not
moment.
it's not necessarily bad to
No.
feel that either,
Yeah.
but
There's a healthy version of it where it's
right.
like, I'm recharged. That was amazing. I love seeing
mm,
what came out of me. I'm energized by that. But then there's
mm-hmm.
all my stuff is gone, or I'm getting all my identity needs met because of what I just did instead of because of who I am.
And some codependency, like you can't really avoid it until things come up in your life where you have to commit and process. It's one of those things where the best way to process through it is with loving yourself in the midst of it and allowing yourself to grow and be no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. It's like we entered into marriage, and just because we got married, all of our codependency. It's like, do you actually like me when I do this? Like, do you like me right now? I can't tell because you're responding differently than I think you should respond based on the way that I would respond to something like that.
So real.
And it's just, and you're like, I'm not okay until you tell me exactly what I think you should tell me, and it's
Yeah.
crazy, when you
Yeah.
get deep relationships, that's when everything, it just comes up.
Yeah. That
That makes sense.
like a little bit of a better understanding at this point.
Yeah, it does. I feel like in a way, I mean, it was definitely really helpful. I don't want to like put a bad spin on it, but I feel like in a way, I have like another thing to be worried about. Like, oh no, am I codependent too? Like,
Funny.
yeah.
I'll just say something like, we're codependent still. Like,
And listen, everybody has some form of codependency. It's not this like big dark thing. Every human is codependent. It's just now it's something that you get to be mindful of. And as things come up in your own process, we tackle a lot obviously in 9 weeks. This is to set the foundation for like the next couple of years of your life, just to be honest.
Yeah.
So don't go hunting for things. There will be a time where it's relevant to your process. So don't worry about it.
And I'll just say this
Yeah.
too. Codependency, like, it is so broad that it doesn't just apply to people. Like, I've had a codependency with certainty. I've worshipped the God of certainty, where if I'm not certain in a moment, then all my fears get triggered and I'll have to process through things. And it's like, and all my red flags are coming up. And it's like I had an unhealthy relationship. And it's like, you know, so just to highlight, while you're going through this process, it's really good to navigate your relationships. So like, it's good that you said that, because you're like, okay, I'm noticing there's one more thing I have to worry about, where it's like, at some point, like the most healing I got in a season was when I went through just a year of realizing I have this problem, this problem, this problem, and loving Spencer in that year-long process where I just loved myself and my problems. And I stopped trying to just fix him, because what I got really good at in the Christian walk was fixing everything, because I would do whatever it cost to do what was right. But then what I sacrificed on the altar of what was right in my standards was my heart. And so what happened was my heart had to have a voice and express. And because it got so shut down, it got to the point where my heart resented everything that was forcing me to do what was right. So it resented God, it resented church, because I believe those things in fact into the corner of what was right. When in actuality, God was like, no, I want a fully alive people to follow me and have communion and relationship with me. And so I want love to be their teacher. I want compassion to be their teacher. And what we do is we sacrifice that on the altar of what's right and perfectionism. And so when you're going throughout this process, I think it would be really, really awesome, especially for you, because I know for myself, really powerful to, in the moments where I feel like things are coming up, going, I may deal with that, but even if I never change it, I love me. Like, God, give me your eyes for me, despite the fact that I just became aware of this thing in my world. I want to love me fully right now. I don't want to have to change to love myself. Teach me this love, God, because that's the power that he has. And the only source that breaks the power of codependency is God, because codependency is literally going, I'm going to divert God as my main source of unconditional love and acceptance. I'm going to put this into my source of meeting that need. And codependency goes, I'm okay when this happens. I'm okay when this happens. I'm okay with this person. Okay when this person is this way. When God is your source, you go, I'm okay, because when things are like this, it's like this, right? Does that all make sense?
Yes, it does. And like on the third yes, you can finally hear me.
My own codependency. Is it good?
Yes. Yes, that was helpful and very timely too, because in my one-on-one with Sammy this week, one of the main highlights or things that Jesus spoke to me was just like, well, actually I asked Jesus, like, what do you love about me? And crazy thing enough, like I know that he loves me, but I've never really asked him what he loves about me. And then also realizing, and Sammy had encouraged me to like think about, what do you love about yourself? And then how that lens even impacts like just how I view the people around me too, like for hopefully like first I'll see what I like about them, what I love about them instead of what annoys me, because I used to like that would be like my first instinct was to see what I don't like about myself and what's annoying, but just like completely flip-flopping that and changing that lens. So like since that encounter with God on Tuesday night, like honestly it's just like I haven't been able to see things the same again. And so it's just been, amazing.
Amazing. I know I used to have a lot of judgment that I had to work through. It's a lot. But like it was like the power of like discernment and all these giftings that I had with just these cases I built against people. And little did I know, but years and years later, I found out that I only tried to judge them and disqualify them because I felt so judged.
Yeah. Can you guys, we can like barely hear you for some reason.
Yeah, can you?
If we mute you, can you hear us better now?
That's not good. No,
Okay.
your audio is doing funny things.
Let's see.
Can you hear it? Can you hear us now?
Is that a lot
We
better?
just have to talk louder. We just have to talk louder.
Is it a lot better? Cool. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. So, what I was saying was that I had to work through a lot of my own judgment because I had all these giftings.
I got it.
I had all these giftings and just these gifts of discernment and things that I just, I don't know. I've always felt like I've been able to read people pretty well. There's just a lot of stuff. I know a lot of it comes from myself, my mom, but it doesn't matter. Basically, what I realized was that I judged and disqualified people because I learned that if I could judge and disqualify them, then I wouldn't feel ultimately judged and disqualified from love and acceptance. And so it leveled the playing field when I could deflate them, right? But what I learned was if I actually learned how to connect with unconditional love for myself, and I actually let go of my judgments and my annoyances and my peeves with myself instead of fitting within this box of perfectionism, then my lens towards the people around me, all of a sudden I could see the good in them. And I could see like, oh my gosh, I don't need to build this case against them because I'm not competing with them for love or acceptance. There's enough to go around.
Love that. For everyone who just hopped on, hey Jessica, hey Kaylee, hey Sarah Shockey. I think I already said hi to you, Sarah Olson.
Talk louder, babe.
Hey Becca, can you guys hear us still? This is still better. Okay, if I talk normal, like in my normal voice, not super loud, can you still hear me? Yeah, kind of. Okay, for those of you who weren't here when we started, I think I have altitude sickness. So I can't breathe and my lungs are like like all day long. So I'm going to try to talk loud. Just like wave at me if you can't hear, okay, so I can be reminded because it's hard for me to talk loud. But hey everybody, we were just catching up on how Tuesday was for everyone and want to know just what's your process been like, what's your takeaway? What are things that you're struggling with or even just victories you want to share?
And of course, if you guys are dealing with other stuff too, you can bring that up too if you're at a different point in your process.
Yep.
Just, yeah, but we want to leave the floor to you guys.
And just type in the chat box if you do want to share because we can't see everybody.
And thanks for letting us know about the audio thing.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Hey, Brittany. I didn't see you. Hi, baby. Anybody? Does anyone have anything you're just struggling with? You're all perfect.
They're like taking a moment. They're like, what am I processing?
If nobody's gonna go,
Brittany, come on, homegirl.
I'm like gonna cry.
Yeah. What's going on, honey?
I'm just like sorry.
Okay.
I'm just like there's just like so much. And like just right now I'm just like super like just triggered because my dad just I don't know, like all day I've just been like so depressed and like so sad. Like I don't even know where to start because it just feels like so much. Like I was like honestly thinking about it today because I was like, why am I so sad? Like I just want to sleep all day. I don't want to get out of bed. Like I don't want to talk to anyone. Like I don't want to like be around anyone. Like I literally am just so sad. And like so that was like earlier. And like I realized then that it was because like one, we just passed the year anniversary of my aunt passing, and then two, like I really miss my ex and I feel like I shouldn't and I feel like I'm not allowed to, and like I feel like I don't have anyone to talk, like obviously like you guys and stuff, but like I just feel like I shouldn't miss him because like of the way like things happen and the way he's like when we ended things he like literally was like when I drew a boundary and everything he like responded he was like I fucking hate you, don't ever talk to me again. Like that like has crushed me, and so it's like I feel like because of that I shouldn't miss him. So it's like I feel like I'm grieving two people at the same time. And then like just a whole bunch of family stuff. My dad is just so condescending. And then he's manipulative, like he makes me feel crazy and makes me feel like I'm overreacting to things and like I like never get to voice my opinion. It's just like a lot of things. So that's what's been happening.
Well, I just want to start by saying you're not bad or wrong for feeling right now. And whatever's going on, you just need to let go of that because it's okay. Like, that's really simple. There's a lot of pain going on in your world right now. It's okay to be feeling. Let yourself off the hook. Just let yourself off the hook. There's nothing that you should be. There's nothing that you shouldn't be. It's okay to be feeling pain right now.
And like that's what's so hard because it's like I mean Sam knows like I've always felt like I can't feel like I can't like I've just always been so shut down and so it's just hard like I don't know just today especially in the morning like feeling and realizing like okay like this is why I'm feeling this way, this is why I'm just so sad, and then I worked out and like that made me feel so much better and like all that, and then like talking to my dad and everything like completely just spun me out all over again, and like it's just like it's been a lot. And then even with this like I'm just like I feel like I'm not trying hard enough, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and then it's like it's just so much.
I would say, like, for me, if I have like just a lot of emotions and pain coming from different places, the best thing that, because the goal that we have internally is like, I want to get to the other side of this. I want to fix this. Like, I'm ready to work through it. What do I need to do to make the pain go away? And then we're mad at ourselves when it's not gone because we're frustrated and feel like we're not doing enough. But it's first, it's amazing that you're even recognizing, like, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling? Where is this coming from? And then next, with the information that you discover, like, love yourself with that. Even you just being like, this is what I personally do when I have pain coming from a lot of different ways. I shouldn't be past this point. Like, I shouldn't know how to do this better right now. I shouldn't be done grieving. I shouldn't be like happy and okay. Like, my aunt who I love died a year ago, and that's triggering pain. And on top of that, man that I've loved for years, I don't get to be with him anymore. That makes so much sense that I'd feel this much pain. Like, I totally get that. Like, I totally understand, Sandy, that you'd be hurting, and I'm with you in this. Like, I'll go after myself like that because it's connecting the dots between what you're becoming aware of and then actually applying it with compassion to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because your pain levels are really high right now. They're probably going to be high because you have natural things that are happening that are really painful. But if you can just give yourself a ton of compassion and understanding for where it's coming from, they'll probably drop down to like this because you're like, instead of like, why am I sad? Why am I not over this? It's like, okay, no, I remember. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And then from there, like what are the practical steps and tools you can do? Like connecting with Jesus and things like that.
Yeah, and furthermore too, like there's a lot to address here. So I've lost 4 really close family members in my life, and that's not light. And that comes in waves. Just the grieving process for that alone comes in waves. And there's nowhere you should be. Even Jesus, when he was approached with his friend that died, even though Jesus knew that he was about to be raised from the dead, he grieved. His heart was actually truly sad to the point where he was weeping. And it's like God himself cares about this stuff. And he has pain that comes up and he cares. And so there's nowhere you should be at all whatsoever. And I just give you full permission to just feel and to love yourself. This is what you need right now. You don't need to be jerked out of this moment. You don't need to be jerked into the next stage of life. This is where you need to be, and it's okay. And the other thing is too, I walked through a 5-month relationship, which was short, very short. And I went through about a 3 or 4 month grieving process, and we had never slept together. When you have a bond that's that tight and you're together like that and you're letting go, there is a healthy grieving process that you have to go on, letting go of someone. And grief looks like saying, I miss you and you're not here anymore. That's what grief is. Grief says, there's actually things that I really liked and wanted and cared about, and it's not here anymore. Grief doesn't happen when something you don't want something there. There's no grief doesn't exist when you know that it's not a good thing and you don't want it. It's all that stuff you can recognize. You don't need to have grief for that stuff. You're like, good riddance. That's cool. But the stuff that you do care about, where you had bonds formed in your heart needs to grieve that, and it's necessary and it's healthy. And so I give you permission to feel that too. With your dad, I'm assuming this isn't just a new pain that you're feeling with him. It's something that's happened for a while. And if you were to go up to a 4-year-old girl and just say hey, I know that your dad just ripped you to shreds, but you need to get on with life. That would be almost verbal abuse when you're talking to a 4-year-old girl like that. You're a person. You are a person. You're a human being. You're not just some adult that doesn't have feelings. You've gone through a lot of pain, and you need to understand that. You need to feel that. You need to be okay with that. And it's not going to be like this forever. Pain is not going to destroy you. It has never destroyed you. It's never won. It's never actually won the fight. It's a moment where you get to actually feel things that are coming up, and you get to meet with perfect love in the midst of those things. What God is waiting for in his people is to meet us in the spaces that we need him in. He doesn't want a clean, perfect people that he comes to. He wants to meet us in the moments where we feel like we're the least lovable. And that's when he wants to teach us what unconditional love means. And so, if you get anything from just the words that I'm saying, I just want you to know you have full permission to feel. You don't have to get out of this space. You can stay in this space for as long as it takes. Literally as long as it takes. Just ask God questions God, where are you in this? Where are you in this? Are you with me right now? I need you. I invite you in. Right now, I need you to be with me. Jesus was he was the one that said, mourn with those who mourn, weep with those who weep, because he does that. I think that you'll find when God enters in, he'll be weeping with you. He'll be mourning with you. He'll be experiencing your pain with you. He's not a distant God that looks at you and goes, I'm perfect. I'm good over here, and I'm just going to sit here and watch you be in pain while I'm over here just good. That's not how he is. The only things that he ever told us to do, he first lived out himself. And he bore your grief and your pain on the cross. He can carry this, and he has carried this more than any person in existence. He knows what it feels like to feel the deepest level of pain. And so this is actually an intimacy that you can only experience while you're feeling pain.
It's true. If I look back at my most painful seasons, some of them being my heart being broken by a guy, it's literally it's my foundation that I stand on for the next 2 years of my life, every single time. And it's if I'm seeking the Lord, because what happens is when we're in pain, that's actually when we recognize our need for God the most, right? So if we actually lean into that, we can cultivate such a deep intimacy because he's the only one that's really there. He's the only one that really knows. He's the only one that can actually bring healing. So in those seasons, I look back on those and I remember crying every day, wishing it'd be over. And then in hindsight, being like, God, you built something in me in that season, and I wouldn't have anything to live on for this next year if I didn't have that season. That's where all my revelations come from, is my painful times, just when it comes down to it. So this is just a good thing. And two, last thought on this, but you just letting yourself feel is what will get you to the other side of it quicker. You shoving it or running away from it will just elongate it. And so we just give you permission to be right where you're at, and I hope that you do the same for you.
And just to allow you to shift your definition of what's strong and weak, I don't see you as weak right now. I don't see you as needing to be fixed or anything. I see you as strong. And I just want to encourage you. You're allowed to shift your definition of what's strong and what's weak in this moment. That what's weak is actually pushing those things down and not confronting them. And I see you as a strong person that's been on an amazing process that's choosing into this right now. And as a man, I just want to let you know, I see your boundaries as strong. I see your heart as strong. I see your process as strong. And I see you as good enough. And I see you as more than enough. And I care that you're in pain right now. As a man, I care that you're in pain. And as a man, I just want to say I'm so sorry for men that don't understand you, that have misunderstood you for years. I'm sorry on behalf of all men that should have been there to protect you, to stand up for you, and tell you that you're good enough. And as a man, I want to tell you that we want and we need women that can connect to their heart and emotions and can communicate them. As a man, I want to say you are more than enough. As a man, I want to say I am so sorry for the pain we caused you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I had to wipe my nose.
And just lay down and rest and spend some time with the Lord right now. Like sometimes it's best when things are fresh like that for us to just take it to the Lord and ride on that momentum and the tenderness and the vulnerability that you're in right now. Like it's the most beautiful space for God to meet you.
And last thing for me too, I just felt this in my heart. I've seen you and experienced you in person, and I've seen you in coaching with Sammy for a while now. And there's multiple times that we've said that you're one of our favorites. It's not because you're just funny and charming and cute and all the things that we've said. It's because you're choosing into this process when it's really difficult. We love this version of you. I love and care about this version of you. And I wouldn't want to see any other way. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't love you just because you're charming and cute and funny and all these different things. We love you because you're you.
Mm-hmm.
The more that you connect with Brittany and who you are, the more that we enjoy you.
It's true. And you're not failing in the program either.
I'm not trying right now. We're not trying to let you right now. Like it's actually really easy to meet with you.
Love you.
We love you.
Love you guys. Thanks.
Sharing and being so vulnerable and brave.
Thank you guys. Anyways, so thank you for all. Thank you. I'm like really hot right now. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself now.
So I meant to meet her. Cool. Technically challenged. It's okay though. All right. Ladies. Bring it. What else?
Was that speaking to anybody else too? I feel like there's actually a couple people that God was just wanting to touch with that too. Yeah, I feel like God's just saying.
What's he saying?
I just feel like he's speaking to a few of you. I think that, just lean into it. If you feel like God's doing something, it's quiet again.
Just sit here.
This is a Selah moment.
Pause. Think on it. That's what Selah means. You know, like in the Psalms, whenever David like writes one little verse, Selah, period. Writes another verse, Selah, period. He's like, just sit, think about it. Nobody. I'm not funny, it's fine. Jessica, unmute yourself, girl.
Hi.
Hey, girl.
So, I feel like I'm in like the opposite. Like I'm in a different place because I was like processing through like the homework one, and I wrote like everything like my whole life, but like I didn't feel like any sadness or any pain, and I still felt like really disconnected to it. And all I felt was just like a lot of fear and anxiety and like confusion. And I know like in the first session it said like to not procrastinate. Like I don't want to procrastinate anymore from feeling my pain. But like what do I do if I'm like numb to it?
Yeah.
So
this is, you did the intro and then you did week 1. It's about feeling your pain.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to confuse them. So you went through it, you wrote out all of your childhood memories and things, and then you just felt shut down to it. Do you have any fresh thoughts? Because I can start talking.
Go for it.
My thought in it is that it might be like a continual thing for you to keep diving into. Because your fear and your anxiety, what would you say that your fear and anxiety were that were coming up?
I started feeling like afraid to look back and like afraid that like it was gonna like make me fall apart. So like have to like relive some of those things like by writing them down. It just I don't know why I felt like a lot of anxiety. I think it's just like throughout my story I felt a lot of anxiety growing up. And like later on in the day, I started feeling like really, really dizzy and like just feeling panic. And so I'm not sure.
Well, what I think of when you say that you felt fear and anxiety is that you're feeling, right? And those are forms of pain. And so it's not that you're totally shut down. I think that because you have been so suppressed to protect yourself from pain, I think it might just be a process of you continuing to go there. And then also just practically, like you could even put your hand on your heart and just be like, heart, I give you permission to feel. Like I gave you permission to access this pain. It's not going to crush you. That's something that I've always really needed to hold on to whenever I'm in extreme amounts of pain or I'm afraid of the pain that could come, is reminding myself like this pain is not going to crush you. It didn't crush you before. It didn't break you. You're still here. And so I think that your heart, it's going to be a process, which is good because you have a lot of time of letting yourself continually feel. And as you go throughout the course, I think that more and more stuff will surface and your heart will probably feel safer to let the pain out. And it might come out in fear and anxiety, or it might come out in sadness and anger. It could look a lot of different ways. But I would just encourage you to keep leaning into it. Like if there are things that you wrote down and you need to go back and revisit them or write out other memories that you have or whatever it is, like I would just encourage you to keep leaning into it and keep cultivating that space where you're just reminding yourself this isn't going to crush you. Like this isn't going to crush you. And as that safety happens, I think the pain will start to surface. And keep in mind too that this is a tool, and you're exercising it now, but you'll be able to apply it more in the future when it's necessary, whether that's in the course or in your practical life. And so you just doing the steps is just really good because you're exercising those different things that we're teaching you.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking of our friend Jimmy, and when we first, he's a really close friend of ours, and when we first met him, there wasn't a whole lot of connection with emotion that he had. It was really hard for him to connect with any type of emotion at all, and everything was just kind of like, meh, and he kind of just realized that he was coasting through life a little bit. And I'm not saying that you're the same person, but I felt to mention his story just because there's some similarities but when he started to really dive into just process and realizing there's different things in his life that kept recurring as a cycle, one of the things that he realized is that love wasn't really present in his life and his world. There was a lot of negligence growing up. And he, when he got through probably a few months of really processing through things, he found out, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of pain I experienced from my dad. So one of the things that I would just, what I was feeling is, while you're on this process and you're taking a look at pain, is going like, where did pain start and who did it start with? Because for me, I started with one parent. I started with my mom. There was one parent that really just brought in a lot of pain in my world. And it's not that she's the enemy, she's not the villain of my life or my world, but there was a lot of pain that I experienced with her for different reasons. And I had to process through that stuff. And so just as you're having a dialogue with pain, or as you're having a dialogue with your heart about pain, and you're just going like, hey, heart, it's actually okay. It's safe to feel. It's like, there's never going to be a better time than now to feel this stuff. And I invite you to feel these things. I actually give you heart, I give you permission to feel, like what Sammy was saying. And just being like, and then asking it questions like, where did you actually remember pain? And sitting there. Sometimes, for me, early on in my process, I went through 3 years of consistent counseling every single week. And it took me a while for my heart to actually start talking to me. It just did. And because I had so shut it down. Mm-hmm. I had built my life around doing whatever I could to serve everybody around me, because it was so much safer than having to deal with my own stuff. And that's what a lot of people pleasers do too. Not only do we learn that with our own self-protective mechanisms, but we learn that in the church body too, because that's what we think Christianity looks like. And then our heart becomes the thing that we sacrifice on the altar to make sure we're doing what's right. And so your heart needs to have a voice again. You need to stand up for your heart. Your heart needs to be able to process through this pain and realize that it's okay to feel, and create that safe place for it. So as you're building that dialogue, just being like, heart, and you can even, this stuff's going to be coming up, because I realize you're in week 1. You went through the intro, and now you're in week 1. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this stuff's going to come up for you.
I love how intentional you are.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, but I'd say just give yourself the space to listen, and don't worry. Don't worry. There's not a wrong way that it's going to happen. You're not going to mess it up or anything like that. Stuff will come up. The process will work out. God is going to show up. Mm-hmm. You just have to create the space for it. And then sometimes just knowing that your heart has the time, it's just like love languages. You have quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts. And it's when your heart feels that time, that it's actually getting time, it's going to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is going on. And you might hear something that's just recent, and then it'll start layer by layer, it'll start to peel back. Mm-hmm. So you're in the right space.
One more thing is, sometimes too, it takes you being led through it, which is why we very intentionally put a one-on-one session within the course, because sometimes your heart won't feel safe enough, because you've broken trust with it by shutting it down for so long until someone else can come create safety and walk you through it. And sometimes that's the thing that kind of like rips off the band-aid, you know, or like pops the cork on everything else that's inside, that it finally feels safe and feels like it has permission to let out. So that's what that's for too. So enjoy the ride, remind your heart that it's doing a good job, and just remind your heart that it's safe. Is that helpful? Good. Okay. I feel like someone, hi Becca Dellinger. I hope I said that right. I feel like I say it different every single time. Hi, other Becca. Anybody else? What's going on, guys? I'm just chilling over here with altitude sickness. Don't mind me. We can share some of our process if no one wants to talk. No one has anything. You're kidding me.
We're just that good. I'm just kidding.
We solved all your problems.
Just kidding.
Except for no one's married yet. Jessica is. We've got to find you husbands next.
I'm starting a program, and I'm just gonna send him all your guys' contact.
Did we tell you about this? He's gonna start like men's alive and free, and then we're gonna do retreats and get everyone together.
All right, speed dating.
I'm very for that. I am very for that. Okay.
All the needs,
you know, when you cry around people, like there's just a bond that happens when men and women cry together.
And then everyone's like, "I love your vulnerability. Marry me."
Okay, I have something. I'm just trying to figure out how to like what happened exactly. I don't know. I haven't fully processed that night. So, okay, so I went to this church before. Sammy knows all about it. It was very I was going there for a long time wanting to leave, but I was feeling like I couldn't because I was worried about what people would think, because I didn't agree with a lot of their standpoint on things, and just it felt very I don't even know the word for it. Anyway, so my friend, I'm really good friends with her still, or I guess we've kind of grown apart because I haven't been going to that church anymore, but she's leading a Bible study, a small group, and I wanted to support her, so I was like, yeah, I'll go to your first one. And so I didn't realize I would feel so triggered going to it and feel all these really, I don't know, big things. Afterwards, I drove home and I was crying because it was just bad. So I don't even know what I want to process with it right now. I'm just bringing it up. But I guess it's because I felt really very outcast, but I didn't feel like I was comfortable speaking up about well, I don't agree with that, or so it just felt like I wanted to do something. The minute I was there, I wanted to run out the door, but I wasn't doing that. So I felt very just sitting there the whole time feeling all the stuff in my stomach, and just their very first so I have this thing about share your testimony, and I have this trigger to that, even just what people want to hear and all that, and just the churches that I would go to, you kind of are expected to just do it a certain way and give it a certain way or whatever. So her get to know you questions for all these girls that didn't even really know each other, and they all go to the same church, was give your testimony. And anyway, I was so a lot of their testimony ended with how they ended up at this church. So it was kind of you could see a trend with where it was going, and mine would be my testimony is how I got out of that church, you know? And I'm just like, I don't know what they're like, what am I supposed to do here in this situation, you know? So anyway, I'm glad that I stayed like true to myself with, I didn't feel like I wanted to say as little as possible, and I didn't feel like they needed to, like, even if it felt uncomfortable, like how little I shared, I was just like, I don't want to, you know, go into too much. So I just basically started out with like, you know, a little bit of how I was raised growing up, and then ended at like that moment it started becoming a little more real to me in high school. And then I just stopped. And I let everyone kind of awkwardly be like, oh, so one lady was like, okay, so how long have you been going to Barabbas? And I was like, oh, actually, I don't go there anymore. And then I just left it at that. And she was just like, oh, okay. And then it moved on. But like that whole Bible study, it was just this awkward, like, I felt because especially when they got to the part about talking about charismatic, like a little more, what do they call it? Oh, prosperity gospel. And then that immediately went into, oh yeah, you know, like in church, we were hearing about people like Bill Johnson and whatever. They started naming off people. And so I was just sitting there feeling really uncomfortable because I was like, well, I'm actually going to a church that would be what you would consider like evil. And so anyway, it was just a very triggering night for me. And it made me just be like, this is why I hate Christians, like, which isn't true. But like, that's the type of,
so bad.
That's what I'm used to and what I've been around and I've been trying to break out of. So, and it just sucks because I'm still friends with the girl like leading this group and who's totally gung-ho about it. And probably the biggest thing is I feel like I'm living a lie when I'm around her because I haven't fully like given it to her, been like, look, I don't agree with your viewpoint and that's okay. Like, I don't feel like I need to in order to, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Can I touch on something really quick?
Sure.
I know he wants to address everything else. What my end thought to your last statement is that you would probably feel a lot less triggered, a lot less excluded, and this isn't what I'm meaning to say, but like you're living a double life. It's not what I mean to say at all, but like you're being one way with her, but actually you don't agree at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel a lot of those things if you have that direct like conversation.
I know. But I guess part of it is like I also don't know how to fully process or like fully verbalize to her like why it is I don't know, like why I don't agree with these things at her if she's like, but you believe the Bible, right? You know, like I don't know how to I've never been good at debates and I don't want to get into this whole debate, which is also why we've grown apart because I'm literally avoiding her. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, why do you feel like you have to debate?
She doesn't.
Well, no. I'm just asking because, like,
I got you, girl.
I understand where you're coming from. What I'm saying is that in those situations, your feelings are valid, and in like a lot of churches like that, there's oftentimes you have to have a case to be able to battle a case, you know. Yeah. And my thing is like, well, as long as I bring my feelings and my opinions to the table, there's no debate to be had.
You don't even have to dissect the spiritual reasons of why you disagree with the
it's
conservative mindset.
If I say, oh, I experienced a lot of pain in that type of, in that type of culture. Like, what's somebody going to say? No, you didn't. Like, no, it was actually really painful being around that for me. You know, and it's like, oh, it was, why? You know, I just experienced this and it really hurt me. Mm-hmm. You know, and I didn't feel like I had a safe place to exist this way. And there's probably some of my own stuff in there, but that's what I felt. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I guess what I just want to ask is is, I guess, what's like a worst case scenario in your mind if you were to share something like in a moment like that where they asked your experience and you were to share honestly just your feelings, and what happened. I guess what would be a worst case scenario, just honestly, like you can imagine happening?
Well, it's stuff that like when I think about it logically, I'm like, it feels like silly,
No,
but
it's
it,
at all. It's not silly. And I'm not saying that at all. There's
no,
nothing.
I know. I mean, because it all comes down to like, let's see. Well, it has to do what she would think about me, and that I, whether like, even though it wouldn't be true, she'd be like, you're not a real Christian.
Gotcha.
Can I ask, and we're going to address all the other things too, okay? So,
Okay.
but can I ask what made you cry on the way home? Like, what were you feeling that led you to tears?
It was the feeling like super stifled, and like I was totally in the, like, that I was very much, what's the word?
Like your voice was taken away?
Yeah, like because in one sense I wanted to be like, look, I don't agree with you guys, and that's okay. But, or like that, oh yeah, I went to that church and I actually really liked it. The one that you're saying is evil, something like that. But like sitting there and feeling like, well, they're talking about me right now. They're talking about people who go to that church. That's me. Like I went and sat through that church. I've been to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't agree. And so it's like, it was feeling things, but feeling like I couldn't say something. Even though I really could have, but it would have been super uncomfortable.
Feel really powerless.
Yeah.
So do you think that like the pain of leaving and feeling powerless is like, how would you compare the pain of feeling really powerless, leaving that situation, feeling excluded, feeling like you don't belong, compared to have like the pain and the discomfort of having a conversation with her, letting her clearly know where you're at, regardless of what happens with the relationship? Like, which pain do you think is worse?
Well, definitely the powerless.
Yeah. So it's like you've been avoiding like having a conversation, right? To avoid pain and the discomfort. And I understand too. I 100% understand feeling like I don't even know how to explain what I believe. And I know she's going to ask questions and I know she's going to try to challenge me. And I don't want to get into a debate. I just want to share with her like feelings. I know that that's where you've been at because we've had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. And I remember feeling that same way in relationships and feeling frustrated. But when it comes down to it too, you do get to exclude like any theology part of it out of it if you want to, but you also just get to choose like, would I rather leave feeling really powerless, voiceless, and like I don't have a place there and it's awkward, or would I rather just know where I stand with her and know what a real friend actually is?
That's ultimately that feeling of powerlessness goes away when you're the only person that stands up for your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm asking you about the opinion, because even if you had the best theology in the room and you knew more about the scripture than anybody else, nobody wins a debate. It's never happened. Like nobody's actually gone on two seats on a debate stand, and one person goes away and goes, I actually agree with everything you said. I'm going to change my mind about all this, and I'm just going to accept exactly what your beliefs are.
Just like
it's never happened
against viewpoint.
Because what people do is they have this case built up around emotions that they don't even know exist, and so they'll have some emotional experience to build all their case around it. And so anytime you bring a case against a case, you're going to be constantly debating. That's why I'm asking, like, if the bigger issue here is that you feel voiceless in it, what would it look like in your relationships and experiences like this? What if the question you asked is like, if I say yes to supporting this person, the one thing that I'm going to make sure of is that I have a voice, regardless if it's right, regardless if I, people disagree with me. This season, and this is a question that I've been asking myself for the past 2 years, and I even ask Sammy all the time. We go, like, what's the word of the Lord on this season? Because I'll tell you, if you have a word from the Lord, you'll be able to go through a lot of junk. You'll be able to go through a lot of junk. Yeah. And I'm really hesitant to even support people on things like that. Maybe because there's some selfish tendencies there. Like if someone were to say like, hey, I'm doing the small group, would you come support? Oh. Like my tendency would be to be like, no, probably not. You know, because I'm okay with them dealing with me deciding what I want to do. And I'm like, unless I feel like the word of the Lord on it, and I'm like, actually, I feel like God, there's a divine appointment in this, and that there's actually something that the Lord is doing with my heart and giving me a voice in this, and I want to go to support her, and that's me being present. But once I've shown up, that's enough support that she needs. The rest of the support that I need in this season is to give my heart a voice. And so I'm going to be asking God what that looks like in the moment, so I can walk away feeling powerful. And so, like, all I'm saying in all of this is that, one, like, I know exactly what you're talking about, because one of my biggest fears is being misunderstood. Like, one of my biggest fears ever was being misunderstood. And that's why I got really good at learning how to explain myself. Except what I learned was that my heart, it didn't do anything for my heart when I got good at that, because I felt like I had sacrificed my heart to become what everybody understood. You know, and it's like I got to this stage of life where I was like really good at sales and all these things that were good for the world and society. But for me, my heart felt so shut down. And if ultimately my goal is to be fully free, have a really connected heart, and be fully alive, I think it just looked like on this season, like constantly asking that question, like, what does it look like for my heart to have a voice in this? What does it look like for me to stand up for myself? What does it look like for my emotions to matter in this? You know, just asking questions like that. I wanted to ask too, when I started talking, do you feel like I was for you in that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure.
Is that helpful at all? I know there's not a clear cut answer.
I know.
For me, my biggest thing is like, talk to her, go get your power.
I know, and that's the only thing that, like, it really, even when I'm kind of talking myself through it, I'm like, the only way you're gonna like really get over this whole thing is that, and I know I've been avoiding it, and I know, you know, our relationships definitely changed a lot because of that, and I don't even think I know she can feel it. I just don't think she really knows how far it's, like, where it's coming from and what the deal is. So I know in the long run it'd be a better thing. It just, I just have a really hard time when it comes to theology clashing stuff, and like feeling like I don't have enough like knowledge to be able to.
I get that. And let me throw something else in too. In terms of relationship with her, any one of us could show up in a room full of women where we are the odd one out of all of their belief systems, and they all think a certain way and function a certain way, and we would all probably leave feeling a little bit misunderstood and a little bit powerless. Just when it comes down to it, it's painful. I have been in settings where I am the like emotional health girl, but the people who were exposed to like the emotional health thing had a negative connotation because of a bad experience they had with a coach who did like heart healing stuff like me. And it's actually like it's a group of pastors. So we're connected to them, and one of the pastors I was spending time with challenged me for about an hour. She sat with me. She wanted to take me out to lunch. And so we're sitting there. She's like asking me question after question. And she's like like, you know, 8 on the Enneagram, they're a challenger, very dominant, very strong, knows who she is not afraid to communicate, will vocalize anything. And she's challenging me for like an hour straight. And so I bring that up, and I have a ton of stuff to back up what I do, why I believe it's true, and all of that. So I was just really graciously like, sure, go ahead, ask another one. And I'd respond. I say that because this woman only took me out to lunch and gave me the time because she liked her experience of me. She liked how I felt. She likes the way that I communicate. I know that there's different things about me that she connected with. So she sought out to understand me and understand my belief system. And thankfully I was at a point where I was strong enough to be able to have like a conversation like that. That would have shut me down probably a year ago. Just shut down. I would shut down if I felt challenged at all, and I would lose my voice. I would stutter a lot. I felt like I couldn't get the words out. But I just share that story because now I've won her over, and the other people within that group that didn't believe in the heart healing and inner healing stuff.
They all come to us to share their deep stuff
about
each other.
I'm the first person she calls. And she's like, you're the only person I feel safe with. And so she'll share all of this stuff. And what happens is, even though you're the odd one out, and even though you really want connection with that friend and your theologies clash, my bet is if you don't go into the debate, which you don't want to do, nor do you know how to do, which is okay.
And even ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you just share how you feel and what you want out of the relationship and how you're growing and you're figuring things out, you can even just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure what I believe right now. I'm okay with that. I love God. I'm seeking the Lord. I'm praying, and I'm figuring it out right now. And so I just want you to know that, however that conversation goes, what I think will happen eventually, even if she's like, well, you're not a Christian, or, gets offended or whatever, my bet is as you get stronger and stronger in who you are, she's just going to feel drawn and attracted to you no matter what. And what you believe up here or spiritually walk out won't matter, because she's going to just want who you are, right? Like you know a tree by its fruit. And so it's really irrelevant who believes what. Like, people know when something's a good thing. They can feel it. It doesn't matter how sensitive or discerning or religious they are.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just opportunity for you to get more convicted of how good your own heart is. Yeah. Like, even yesterday, I had kind of a meltdown a little bit, because with all of our ads, I had this woman started just blatantly attacking me and my character
and my ripped jeans.
And yeah, just about the way that our advertising went. She might
as well not wear pants at all if she's gonna wear those ripped jeans.
Yeah.
Wait, is this the same woman that was talking about you guys being on a bed? Remember that one?
One.
There's a couple people. So like, there's even one girl that said, "Oh, didn't you see that it's actually Spencer who's running these ads, and he's targeting women and trying to lure them into his advertisements to try and like manipulate them, all this different stuff." And I was ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh. And then like this other woman, it was just like this big aggressive thing. And then this one woman gave us a review, and she never even went through any of our stuff. And people,
they don't know anything about. She's just like trolling us, and
yeah.
I was like, "Are you serious?"
But I let it get to me, and we were disconnected for like 45 minutes. And I was like, babe, that really hurt, actually, And I was like, I felt like my heart was being accused of something, and I felt it, and
the misunderstood thing.
Misunderstood thing, and I was just like. I was like, I'm so not that person. And we just started talking about like who I actually was. And it was just something that was really good for me to walk through, in that moment. So I was like, well, it revealed something in me that needed security.
That's with all of these situations, with all of you, anything that you're going through where you have pain that comes up or you're triggered in an area, it's a revealer, and it's an opportunity and an invitation to deal with that. Just when it comes down to it. So when that was happening, I was thinking, well, babe, if we're like going places and we're going to fulfill the word that God spoke over our life, we're going to have way bigger fish to fry than this.
Yeah.
She's trolling our page. I don't even know who she is. And she's that religious to where she's judging my ripped jeans. Like, we're going to have way more things that we're going to have to work through. But in the midst of it, like, as little things come up, and even us being disconnected for a little bit yesterday because he's hurting, it's good. It exposes like, wow, I'm actually letting myself really be affected by this person.
And after we were done and we processed through it, I started to feel so sad for this woman. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually the world that she lives in, with these walls and these things that she believes that God is, and the way that he judges us. And I'm like, just made me feel so sad for her, and I'm like, and ultimately your friend, I'm not sure what's going on in her world, but as you own your heart and you feel like your heart matters and your emotions matter and you're strong in that, there's a compassion that you'll feel for people where you get to move outside of having to understand their situation or where they're at. And that's why I'm like, when you can really connect to that, like, let this season be an opportunity to own your voice, to just really own it, because you can sit in a room with the strongest atheists that will hate on you. And if you can see their heart and you can see your heart, none of that stuff matters. It's a tactic for them to try and remove the pain of an angry God that they believe is going to smite them. Like there's just so much behind all that stuff that is just on an emotional level. If you have that conversation, I'm always down for asking questions. I'm like, hey, so have you ever been to Bethel Church? Like, have you gotten a chance to listen to Bill Johnson speak? And if they're like, no, I'm like, cool. I'm a big fan of like really wanting to seek to understand and find out things before I make big assumptions. Sounds like it's just a big assumption, because I've been there and I love them, and that's just me. Like, I've been there, so I'm curious, I guess, what pain are you experiencing from the prosperity gospel? Like, what about that don't you like?
I'll write that down.
There's just questions.
I know, I was wanting to. I was like,
when Spence and I were really good friends, he was like the only person that felt like he was on the emotional journey that I knew. And so anytime I had like weird friend confrontations that came up, which were all with Jamie, I'd like call him, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do. I'm so triggered right now. I'm pissed off. I just want to push her away. I want to end friendship. And he'd be like, how about you just say this, 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 and this? And I'd literally I'd be like, okay, wait. And I would write it down word for word. But it put language.
I didn't even know that.
It put language to what I felt inside. I just didn't have the verbiage for it. So I was.
That tends to happen a lot too. Like, I don't have the verbiage, but then somebody else is like, yeah, that's how I want to say it.
Take it. It'll be years after that. Once you, like, when you claim what someone else said that like resonates with you, like it feels so much more concrete and solidified in you. So it's something that you can use again in the future, because you're like, oh, I get that. I applied it. I like the way that it flowed in the conversation, and I feel more confident using it now. So
aren't we addressing communication and confrontation? Awesome.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I already feel just lighter.
I'm glad. We love you.
Yeah, we love you a lot.
I love you guys too.
Becca. No. Beth. Becca, so confidently. Beth said, can you dive deeper into handling when your needs aren't met by a loved one? You've been communicating well, they're just not responding. How do you maintain connection with them and feel loved by them in the way they're showing it?
There's lots of needs I haven't met. You still love me.
Yeah, I will answer this first. There are things that I have communicated to Spence a lot of times, and I'll like sit him down, tell him how it's affecting me, tell him my desires, and I'll feel like I'm doing a very good job at being very clear and giving him practical ways to meet the needs, and it won't happen. And it's been a year now, and well, what? Okay, so it's been a year, and things have still not happened. And actually, us being in Colorado was one of his ways. Like, he bought tickets without me realizing that he did it. And I told him I wanted to go to Colorado. I looked up the plane tickets, but then the next morning he bought them without having a conversation with me about it. And just like that little surprise of adventure, because that's one of my biggest things, where I'm like, I just want you to spontaneously surprise me with adventure. Like, I want to go camping, like, take me camping, like, let's do this, like, let's not plan anything. And I want you to talk to me about it. I just want your effort in, like, I'm thinking about her, and I'm going to do the thing that I know makes her come the most alive. So after a year of having it go unmet, an entire year, I had to, because it's painful, just to validate that. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like, I feel like I'm doing a good job of communicating, and I feel really disappointed. Just when it comes down to it, I'm disappointed, and I want to feel loved and pursued. And for me, the best thing that's helped me through it is recognizing who he is and what's happening that's preventing him from actually stepping up to the plate. So like for him, he will feel like, well, I tried to plan this and it just didn't work, or I was thinking about this, but he'll feel powerless to do the thing that I really want, because he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've never even gone camping before. I don't know what you're even gonna like, or when the right time is.
All the things that she loves and everything, I never had, and I never known how to do it. You know, like I always expected that, you know, in a marriage we'd just being together would be enough. You know, and I'm like, well, that's because I'm a quality time person. You know, I'm like, so as long as we just get together, we're good. But, you know, for anything else, I was just like, well, never equipped by my dad. Nope, not by that. And I was like, crap, it sucks. It's really hard for me.
So he literally would turn into he'd be a defensive at first. He's like, no, I'm tried. But then he'd turn into this little boy who's like, and this is every man internally, even if they don't know how to vocalize this. It'd be like, I want to do these things for you, but I don't know how. Like, I'm trying and I don't want to disappoint you and I want you to feel pursued, and like, did you not notice when I like brought a flower home last week, or did you not notice when I brought you kombucha?
And
he's like,
and I'll tell her, like, I was sharing with her yesterday, I was like, my biggest fear with you is not being enough. You know, I'm like, I want to be enough with you. And you know, and that's just, yeah, and it's just an area that I'm like having to still be like vulnerable with her so that I can really let her in, and so that with her love I can grow in this and choose into it.
And I want to add in, don't do the work for him. Like, let your man communicate what's going on inside of him and the pain he feels and why he's not stepping up to the plate. Don't voice your needs, them not go unmet, and then just be like, well, he's trying his best. Like, let him step up to the plate for you. Let him know how he affected you. And when you're in the confrontation, seek to understand. And also just recognize, like with any man, especially like we've been together for not even 2 years, a year and 8 months, I think. He is still such a little boy inside, and relationship with a woman is still so vulnerable with him. It's so vulnerable for him all of the time. He told me yesterday, like, sometimes I'm afraid because you're so strong. You're just so, like, you're such a strong woman, and that just scares me that I won't be enough. And so, like, and you guys have seen him. He's a unicorn. He's amazing. He's profoundly wise. He's gone on this journey, and yet, can you see that my pants are unbuttoned? And yet, girls gotta breathe. You know what I'm saying? And yet, he's like this like little vulnerable boy, and it takes time. Like, men and women, we both need to be trained, and we need to learn how to meet their needs. So I would say, continue to share what you're needing. Also give time and grace and understanding. And for me, it's looked like me stepping back and just being like, okay, I'm going to meet these needs then. Or I'm going to have the Lord meet these needs. For me, that looks like adventure. So instead of on my birthday really hoping that he plans some kind of adventure, which I was so disappointed this year because nothing happened, next year I'm going to plan my own birthday. If and when he's ready to step up to the plate and be like, babe, don't plan anything this weekend, or don't plan anything for your birthday. I want to treat you or do something for you. That's when I'll be hands off. But I'm like, if I don't want to be in pain and I have this need that's specific to me, it's not his job to meet. Just when it comes down to it, it's not on him. It's an invitation.
Yeah.
He gets to, if he wants to get that part of my heart, if he wants me to, like, because I would honestly feel so insanely loved if he planned an adventure for me. My love and excitement would be a reward for him. When it came down to it, he'd feel like it was so hard and I finally planned it, and she felt so loved, and like he'd feel proud, like he did a good job as a man. But until
one of the things you took ownership for though too was that you had a big trigger with people never celebrating you or giving you what you needed. Like there's a big trigger around needs going unmet.
Yeah.
You know, and so
if I ever wanted anything, I had to do it myself.
The thing that disarms me, just to let you guys, to let you know, Beth, the thing that disarms me is when Sammy takes ownership for her stuff. She's like, I want you to know this is my trigger with having my needs go unmet. my whole life. With my dad, never felt pursued, because for me, I'm just like, why is this such a big thing? Like for me, we just every birthday we like went out to dinner. We didn't even do presents. Like my family barely says they love each other or hug. Like as long as we have a few good laughs over a dinner, we're celebrated. I've never expected anything from anybody. But her life has been a lot different, and the pain in her life has been a lot different. So I'm having to sit here and take ownership for like, hey, like I want to be a man for you. Here's where my fears are. I want to grow. You're right. Like, trying to enter into it really humble and connecting with my own heart and still like loving myself while I'm growing. When she takes ownership for like, I have a fear of having my needs go unmet.
And for me too, like with that, it in the ownership aspect of it, it looks like me. I lost my thoughts. I'm trying to ramble until I remember. It looks like me saying, I'm really sorry, because what I had envisioned is that when I got married, that my man would step up to the plate in every area, and that it would kind of cancel all of the pain from the rest of my life. Not like I'd be healed, but like, oh, my needs going unmet in these like general areas, like having an elaborate birthday and getting adventure or spontaneous trips, things like that. I thought, oh, for sure I'll be with a man that would like, will just take care of that. So it's my fault for putting expectation on him.
Like
There's a
even
healthy,
stepping up to the plate is an analogy for baseball, which is a performance sport. Like,
yeah.
and I'm like, well, I'm not going to perform, like we're all at where we're all at where we're at.
But there's a healthy degree. There's the unhealthy expectation that I can take ownership for. But even on my birthday, the day that we're talking about somehow, I said, I'm sorry for putting expectation on you. Here's what my expectation is. But I want to know that I can have a healthy hope and a healthy expectation that you're going to want to like make effort in these areas.
She just wants to know that I'm actively pursuing her. And that's where I've fallen short. And I'm like, well, the thing I can take responsibility for in this season is that despite the fact that I'm learning, despite the fact that this was never a part of my world, that I'm growing, that blah, blah, blah. Like all that stuff that I'm really working on, and God's meeting me there. Like I still have prioritized other things instead of her. And that's on me, and I get to go, I'm really sorry. You deserve so much better than that.
And so we're both, I mean, even now, obviously we're such babies in marriage.
Yeah.
But we're still voicing our needs all of the time. And there are things that both of us need from each other that don't get met. It's just when it comes down to it. We get to manage our pain, manage our expectations. And our biggest goal in relationship is for it to feel like a gift for each other. Like, hey, whatever you do, however you are serving me, that is such a gift. And then getting our needs met from the Lord and other people. Like I can get adventure with my sister.
Yeah.
Anytime we're together, I get that need met.
She cannot be my buddy Ben with me. Like, like there is no way she could be Ben. Like we're gonna have way different conversations and fun and ridiculous conversations and talk than we'll have here. But it's just a need that gets met there.
So long answer.
Long answer, but.
Long answer. Was that helpful? And do you have any more questions in that, Beth? Unmute yourself if you do.
Yeah, it was for sure super, super helpful. And like just very much like validating what I've been doing so far. Can you hear me okay? Okay. What I've been, like how we've been communicating so far. But yeah, it was just very helpful, like removing that expectation. And I loved how you even said, like, I want to know that I can have a healthy hope and expectation that you're going to pursue growth. Like that was exactly the words for me, because so much of this journey, so much of the emotional health and everything is so new to him. And he's literally like you, Spencer. So much of what you said, I was like, he could relate to all of this. He's like, I don't know. I've never seen this before. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's when I can connect to the pain she feels from something, my love goes way up. When I can connect to her vulnerability. When she's sharing about the way my behavior should change or the way I could change or anything like that, which she has done in the past, I'm like, this doesn't work for me.
Accusation.
I'm like, this isn't you sharing your feelings. Like you,
Change.
and she's crying and she's like trying to share what, like, she's like, no, I'm trying to share my, like, what I need from you. And I'm like, no, you're telling me ways that I am not, and that I'm disappointing you. But like, you're not actually sharing any feelings in any of this.
Like I feel
Like,
really sad instead
yeah,
of like
I feel sad and frustrated. I feel so much pain. I feel like it's relationship with my dad repeating over and over again. You know, like,
what are the things that I want to put language to it, but I don't even recognize it when I'm in a lot of pain. But what are the things that I say to you when I think I'm communicating my feelings, but I'm not? Like when you're defensive, what are some of the things that I've said to you? Just so you guys have like a clear picture of what the difference is.
it's hard to remember in the moment because it's also been a while, but because it's been a while.
No, even on my birthday, that was like a
Yeah.
month and a half ago.
Okay. And the birthday.
So
Yeah. So she's like, I just feel like you should want to be pursuing me. Like, I just feel like I'm trying to think of like the actual conversations. It's so hard to remember like the actual.
Like, I don't feel pursued by you. Like, I don't feel like you're even trying.
Yeah.
It's.
I don't feel like you're trying. I don't feel like.
In the form of accusation.
And I do that all the time.
It's very, even doing this, it's very hard to differentiate it because he'll say, you're not telling me how you're feeling. And I'm like, hell yes, I am.
It's like, no, you're saying I feel and throwing a speculation and a conclusion and an accusation right after it. But I feel doesn't give you permission to tell me about me.
Yeah, I feel sad. Like, what are the actual feelings that you can take ownership for internally that are yours?
But it's scary because our thought is, if I don't share about them, they're not going to be able to change.
They won't change.
And there's
You
actually
won't fix
control and manipulation in that.
Mm.
You know, it's
So
like,
are you expecting, like, in that scenario, Sammy's like, I'm feeling really sad right now, or I'm feeling really scared and disconnected, and then just leaving it at that? Is she then waiting for you to go why? Or what makes you feel that way?
It just doesn't, it doesn't usually. So we were having a really big disconnect in LA, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't ever remember this.
we just were. So I do. For 10 minutes straight, I'm just telling her, I'm like, all you're telling me is I feel that, you know, that you're this way, and you're telling me about me. I'm like, what are you feeling? And then she starts crying and I'm like, you know, and she's like, you're not satisfied until I'm just like crying and it gets to this point where I'm just like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, yeah, because it's you feeling like I actually like right now, and I start crying and I'm like, I care about this. Like, this is what I care about. I want to know that you're feeling pain. I want to know about like this, that you felt like this pain, this hurt. Like, I need to know that because I can respond to that. But when you tell me about me, it makes me want to defend myself, tell you what I have done.
I'll start the conversation giving him information about what happened or why I'm disappointed or what I've been experiencing of him. And to me, I think that I'm vulnerably letting him in and opening up a conversation.
But it's more of a crafted,
he feels just
statement.
Accused. And so he'll either just be like, okay, because he's waiting for me to share how I feel. And I think that I am.
And I'm like, sorry you feel that. Or I was like, sorry.
That pisses me off so bad. So then
I'll keep doing my thing.
Then I'll start feeling really powerless and then disconnected, and I'll be so frustrated that I feel powerless. So then I start crying, and he's like, that's what I've been waiting for. And I'm like, what? What you want to see me cry? That's how you know. But really, what it comes down to, it's putting the accusation and assumption at the end and putting it on a feeling statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much with that. Like, that's literally us.
It's real.
Yeah. Very much so.
Do you have any?
Because in the same way, like, I think, Spencer, I think so much like Sammy does.
Get closer to your microphone.
I think so much like Sammy in how, like, I'm getting my needs met, or my fear of not getting it met, or my fear of being misunderstood. Like, so I will respond, and I think that same way, where I'm like, I think I'm communicating it as a need or as an emotion or as a feeling, but it's not coming across that way.
It's dangerous when you have really good language because you've been on the emotional health process. And you know all these words, and and communication, and all of a sudden you're still defending yourself, or you're still like, you know, you're still not taking a moment to be, you know, vulnerable and be brave in that. And for me, I'm like, I get it, because she didn't have a safe place for that for a long time. And this is the first marriage she's ever been in. This is the first intimate relationship she's had since her dad. Like, and even then it was like, it didn't even touch that type of intimacy. So it's triggering everything she could possibly have. I get that stuff, but I'm still like, I can't function in our relationship if this is the way that we communicate. Like, I can't function in this unless I connect with your feelings, your heart, and who you are.
This is just a thought in alignment with, it's dangerous having really good like communication and knowing how to put things in word things. Like, I had a girl who I taught her how to communicate, and I walked her through like some degree of emotional health. And then she came to me voicing different things. And instead of asking me questions and seeking information, she used the language that I taught her and was like, hey, I've been noticing this. So I'm just wondering, what is that thing that you're doing? Like, so and I'm trying to remove the details, but basically she put good language on it, but it wasn't her actually sharing about the way that she was affected by something. It was her using good language and then trying to point her finger at me to fix me so that her pain would go away. And when I was reading that, I'm like, well, this is actually really dangerous, because she knows the right words, but she doesn't fully understand emotions, which I'm doing that same thing, right, in marriage, so I get it. But she doesn't fully understand emotions and what she's communicating and what needs to come across. And so it's just dangerous, because it can be very manipulative, you know, if we're not careful with our language, and if we don't understand the emotional aspect of it and what we're trying to express in a moment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And like, what I'm realizing very early on now is that I can have a tendency, because I'm uncomfortable with my feelings. Like, there are certain feelings, because I was so shut down for my entire life, I'm uncomfortable with them showing. So I cover them in my process. So I'll process them before they're fully up. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to just coast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're removing vulnerability.
Yeah. Because then it like takes away connection, and it takes away the messy of connecting in that ugly space.
It's so much easier to go into your secret place, process everything, and then go into relationship. It's not intimacy. Like, the only intimacy you have in that is with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's it. And when we're called to have intimacy with people, all of a sudden that doesn't really work, right?
The coolest thing for you, though, is that you see that and you know it, and you know that it's a weak spot in an area that you're trying to avoid pain. And like what you're aware of, you get to change. You know that. And so what will happen is you just intentionally choosing in those moments, like, I'm actually not going to process this right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to share it. And then I'll share like the conclusion of my process afterward, and the exchange that you get in the vulnerability, which I know that you've experienced. But that exchange you get is so rewarding, and the connection you receive is so rewarding. And even like for me, when I get to see the way that Spence gets to step up for me in those times whenever I'm just a mess and sharing, my heart gets the love that it's actually desperately wanting. But instead, like, and I've done what you did for a really long time. I thought if I share like the end process with the bow on it, then I'll get love and then they'll be impressed. But really, what all of the people in my life only ever wanted was like the messy, untied, like, here it is, you know, and then I can come to a great conclusion afterward.
Well, like, and even just as a short thing, I was watching Tana, you know, go through a codependency talk, and I was like, this is so powerful because she's actually being vulnerable with how she's walking through it right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, that spoke to me because we've been doing this for a long time. And a lot of times a voice can come in and say, you have to be so much further than everybody else to be able to have influence. And it's just a blatant lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a lie,
mm-hmm.
you know? And it's like, so like the biggest stuff, like the most authority that we can have in a topic, in something that we're walking through, is the moment after. Is like literally the moment after we walk through something. It's like like every time Jesus ministered to somebody in the scriptures, the woman at the well, the man that was healed of all these demons, the man that was healed that was lame, the guy that had he received his sight and he left at the gate called Beautiful after 20 years of being blind. Like every single one of them, their largest ministries, I guarantee you, is right after they experienced that breakthrough and healing.
Mm-hmm.
Like right afterwards. Like the only thing that qualified them was that they were healed. That's it. And anyways, that's my little soapbox for a moment. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you a lot.
We love all of you guys so much. Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Oh, it's just Becca. Cool. Well, we love you guys so much. Thank you for giving us your evening and your vulnerability and your attention. I love how hungry all of you are. Oh, wait, is there another hand up?
Becca, yes.
Which Becca is that?
Becca.
Oh. What's
Yeah.
up, girl? Unmute your microphone.
Okay, I just wanted to really quickly recap because I just want to make sure that I'm understanding like a healthy process. Like this applies to me in like so many areas. So first of all, thank you because like it's so helpful. Like in my past relationship, but also right now, like in just like close relationships, like with people that I'm on teams with, and so it's healthy to like communicate like if somebody maybe did something that hurt you, but it's healthy to communicate the feeling. So like it's okay if you communicate like this is what you did that hurt me, right? Or is that like, because I think it could still easily be like, well, I can never do anything right, like I'm always failing or whatever, like that feeling might come up for the other person. Even with that,
that's not your responsibility. Like what triggers them and how they respond or react is not your responsibility. Healthy is you can share a moment and what happened, and then the biggest part that I would say is then sharing how that affected you, how that made you feel, and it's not their responsibility either, which is why you're taking ownership and going to them and having like a conversation about it, right? You're taking ownership for how you were affected and your pain. You're saying, hey, you're presenting it, hey, here's what happened, here's how this hurt me, and I just wanted to let you into it because I feel like I've been a little bit withdrawn or disconnected since then, and I just don't want to do that. So I'd love to just know, like, what did you mean by that, or and what was your intention, or whatever it is.
My biggest filter with confrontation is to get to a place where there's no victim or villain in my story. And so as long as I can come to that place and I don't villainize somebody or vilify somebody, then I know that I'm going to be able to approach the conversation good, because I'm going to be like, hey, you did this and this happened and I felt this way. And the story that I made up in my head, which I know isn't true, but I just wanted to present it to you, is this. And so I just want to hear your take on it.
Like, for example, you don't like me or you don't want me around because you didn't do this.
Yeah,
this,
the
this.
story I made up in my head, and it's a tool I use all the time.
It's so
because
helpful.
It disarms people from the voice of accusation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story I made up in my head, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the story that I made up in my head is that, you did this because you were annoyed of me and you didn't want me around. And honestly, I just felt super rejected when you did this thing, and it hurt my feelings. And I just wanted to see if there was any truth in that, or and if not, I at least didn't want it to be unknown.
I just wanted to let you into it, so that I don't remove myself or withdraw because of fear of it happening again or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts in that?
My only other thought in that is if people have a victim, if they have relationship with a victim mentality, or like the voice of accusation over their life or condemnation, there's nothing you can do about that. There's just nothing you can do about that. All you can do is your best.
Which would look like them reacting, being super defensive, putting it back onto you. Like, you can't control any of that.
And it's like, even in those moments, I just say like, hey, it seems like you might be defensive in this, and I just want to let you know I'm not attacking you in this. I'm not blaming you for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to let you know, like, I just was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have, when you invite them into that, then you get to change your course of direction, because if they're not safe to handle your vulnerability like that, which is a true authentic vulnerability, that's when it's really good to learn what Tana was talking about and to set up a boundary.
Yeah, like I don't want you to meet that need for me anyways based on how you responded or based on how defensive you were. It helps you make a decision to.
And I've straight up had conversations with friends where their reaction, despite me having multiple attempts to let them know, like, hey, that wasn't my intention. That's not where, I'm not blaming you. I just felt this. But just based on your reactions, I just want to let you know, I'm not sure how safe I'm going to feel in this friendship. We may need to have some adjustments to happen. That sucks, and that's really painful. And so totally get that, but let me know if you have any other thoughts or process on this that come up where you feel like you can take responsibility for stuff, or you understand things a little bit differently. It's hard when it's a vague topic, but.
Was that helpful for you? Yeah, good. I'm glad. I just saw a chat. Where did it go?
Jessica has a question.
Jessica,
too.
come on, girl. I didn't want to keep you guys on because it's been 101 minutes.
It's a quick question. So it has to do with this, because I can really relate to it. Just like in my marriage, we've been married like now 2 years, but our relationship has been like 7 years. But basically, and throughout like the whole amount of our relationship, I was like very unhealthy. But now that I'm like coming into health and I'm like learning a lot and just wanting to grow myself more, like I've been like realizing that I still struggle with like a lot of codependency. And when I notice like, oh, I'm not having like a need met, I tend to like catastrophize a lot. And I'll start to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, our marriage is falling apart. Or like, and then I'll tell him, and then he'll feel like, what? Like, I thought we were good. I'll be like, oh. But then the next day I'll realize like, oh my God, I was catastrophizing that. So I guess my question is like, I don't know how to pause in the moment when I'm catastrophizing. And he doesn't even know like what to say, because he's still like learning how to be vulnerable or like help me. Because I used to get mad when he would be like, are you okay? But now like I'm learning like, what is a safe way for him to tell me, hey, you're kind of catastrophizing this.
Yeah. I mean, so in regards of it's hard for me to stop and pause whenever I'm feeling that, I would say a very helpful tool for me, because the underlying fear that's causing your freak out is that my needs aren't going to get met, and I don't want to be stuck in a marriage where I'm not taken care of. Yeah. Right? So if your ultimate fear is my needs aren't getting met, then that means you have past pain of your needs going unmet, probably for your entire life, right? So in the moment where you start freaking out and you're like, oh my God, this need's been going unmet. He doesn't love me. He's not going to take care of me. Stop and just be like, Jessica's heart, your needs will get met. If you have to tell yourself 100 times in a minute, that's okay. Like what you're trying to do, like your heart is literally freaking out just because it's so afraid that it's never going to be taken care of. So the only thing it needs to know in that moment is that it will be taken care of. Your husband may or may not know how to communicate that, and he probably will in a few years if he doesn't now. But if he can't communicate that, it's probably a good thing for you to build that within yourself, where you're like, heart, I'm going to take care of you. Your needs will get met. From there, after you feel like the urgency levels decreasing,
the stakes go down from like a 10 out of 10 to like a 1 or 2 out of 10.
After that, you still have a need that's going unmet. That's why your heart was like, alert, alert, like freak it out. I'm not okay. So pay attention to that alert, because you can be like, heart, what do you need right now? Oh, you might even hear like, I need him to do, this, this, and this. Whatever the thing is, really, you don't need him to do anything. There's an underlying need, right? Like you might be needing him to pursue you. What are you really needing? You need to feel pursued by the Lord. You need to be loved on by the Lord, right? So, or by you. It could be your heart just saying like, love on me, pay attention to me, pursue me, which means spend time with me, listen to me. And so what we'll do is we'll project our need onto our spouse, They're like the biggest poor people, the biggest target for like all of our unmet needs, and it's really not their problem when it comes down to it.
Like if I had perfect, unhindered relationship with God, would she be a gift, or would she be somebody that disappoints me? I can guarantee you she'd only be a gift.
Mm-hmm. So with that, tell your heart it's going to be taken care of. There were times, so for me, when I was 20, I would binge eat, and I'd eat really healthy things because I was afraid to get fat. But I would sit there and I would have to eat and eat and eat until like everything was gone. I remember like for like a year, I'd eat almost a pound of almonds and cranberries, and I'd spend like $20 or $30 on this huge bag, and I would feel internally like I had to finish all of it until it was gone, because I had this deep underlying thing in my heart that said, there's not going to be enough for you and you're going to run out. There's not going to be enough, you're going to run out. And it took me a long time to identify that, because I was like, man, why do I feel like I can't stop no matter how full I am? But it's this poverty mentality because I went without for so long. And so what I did was for like 3 months, I'd sit there and I'd let myself eat. I wouldn't shame myself and try to stop my behavior. I would just be like, Sammy, there's going to be enough for you. There's going to be enough for you. And sometimes I'd still eat the whole dang bag. But after like 2 months of like continually reminding my heart, there's going to be enough for you. You're not going to run out. God's going to provide for you. I just stopped wanting to overeat. I just started believing like, oh, they're actually like, why would I eat that? It's a waste of money. I'm so full after, like, I hate that. And I could connect with the healthy, like, oh, I'm satisfied now. And so with that, if it takes a few months of you just like over and over again, giving that to your heart, or at any moment where you're freaking out, giving that to your heart and then finding out exactly what it needs and then getting it met by you and the Lord, you probably won't have those freakouts. And then after you get those needs met by you and the Lord, you can even go to your husband and be like, honey, I've really just been feeling like I want to feel pursued by you, you know, or like whatever the thing is. I want more.
And guys want to know that their strength is desired. That's another thing. Like I want your strength in our relationship.
Yeah.
I want you to be here. Like you matter so much to me. I want to feel your pursuit. It's so like it's so strong to me. I need to feel it because I haven't been feeling it.
But then you're coming without the underlash. You're coming without the underlash and the weight of disappointment and pain and lifetime of needs going unmet. And you're just saying like, hey, I'm good.
I'm calling out your best self.
But would you meet this thing? Like, I want you to come into this place. And then it's easier for them to step in because they're not feeling your lack, their inadequacy, your disappointment. They're just feeling like, oh yeah, babe, like I'd love to do that for you.
Like I see like the the whole plank in the eye analogy that Jesus brought up in the scripture where he says like, before you remove the speck out of your brother's eye, go and remove the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clear enough to remove the speck out of your brother's. My thought is like, why is it so much about eyes? It's because it's our perception. And I think that when we have something that's really happening in our world, it blocks our perception, and we cast that on the person that's in front of us. And it's a brother, it's someone that we're really close to. And so I believe that if you go and you get that need met with the Lord and you feel like your source is strong, like capital S source. There are other sources of needs getting met, but your capital S source is meeting your needs.
It's
God's
like
meeting your
biggest, most dramatic, intense need.
But then you can go to your husband and you have that ability to pull out an invitation. You have an ability to see who he really is and desire that. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, you're speaking from this powerless state of going like the log might be powerlessness. And it says things will always be this way, that you'll never get out of it, that you're trapped. It's like once you remove that, you're like, oh my gosh, it's not going to always be this way. He just needs to be called into, like, I need to be a strength to him to pull him into this because I care about him, and then you'll watch as your needs get met.
Mm-hmm. Is that helpful for you?
Yeah, it's really helpful. I think it's just like the matter of like figuring out like what is my underlying need. Because I know it's like an intimacy need, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like I do go to the Lord to get that met, but it still feels like it's not being met. And so just like having to process through that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's good. And just just to touch off, I know we say this to you every time, because there's like the course is so loaded, like it really is, and as you go through it, you'll feel more powerful and learn how to identify that stuff. So the need where you're like, I've been trying to take it to the Lord, but it feels like it's still going unmet. That's why we're doing this, is so you're like, man, it's been like this for so many years, but finally I was able to identify that, but finally I know the tool to actually use, but finally I know what the real issue is, you know. So these things will come to, but.
And I'm super excited for the 12 month.
Yeah.
The 12 months, just there's so much practical stuff that, because I mean, you guys know it's not a 9-week process. Like you probably found it out by now. It's 9 weeks of packing as much as you possibly can into the foundations of what builds that momentum. But you know, the 12 months, and we'll go into all the details at some point. I'm so excited because that's where the really practical stuff happens. So and you're signing up for, you know, a lifelong journey. It's not just, you know, a present momentary thing. But we love you guys so much. Thank you for trusting us again, and for all your stuff, your vulnerability. Love you guys. Like,
Pray for my altitude sickness.
Yeah.
This is the best I've felt all day, though, so that's good.
She's codependent on you guys. You know, she didn't feel good, and now she feels
I feel
good
like
after
so much
meeting with you
better
guys.
whenever I know that I'm like changing people's lives. So I really just get all my identity needs met right here.
We really do love you guys so much. Yeah, thank you. We count it as a blessing and an honor.
We do. Love you guys. I hope you have an amazing night. And P.S. I totally lagged on posting Tuesday's video. My fault. I totally spaced. So that should be on, if the link isn't working, let me know, but it should be on the Facebook group, and I'm going to load this one to it tonight. So love you guys. That's all. Bye-bye.